Hi, I'm Alex. I'm one of the members of a small indie dev team called Iteration Games, and since it's been a while since our last game came out, we thought it might be worth trying to get something started again. So I've had a few game ideas since Paper Pirates, and most of them have come from taking part in game jams. I never really fell in love with them, or I'd spend so much time after the fact trying to recreate them that I'd lose passion for the project. But I've been working on something recently that I'm really excited about. The idea for the game is simple. What if chess were a base defense game with farming, crafting, dungeons, civilization building, all of the good things, right? I just recently finished playing Stacklands, a card-based village builder by Sockpop, when I first came up with the idea, so a lot of what makes that game really good definitely had an impact on me. It's a really good game, go play it if you haven't. So I set off making a really simple little tile map generator that spawned an 8x8 grid of soil tiles and placed a little farmer in the middle. This map is going to be a lot bigger, but this felt manageable to start with, and I'm thinking of keeping the player in an 8x8 for the start of the game anyway, so this is fine to start with. Farmers are essentially going to be my pawn pieces. They move one space at a time and only move in diagonals when attacking, but we'll get more onto attacking later. Of course, in actual chess, pawns can only move forward, but that's weird. I really wanted the player to be able to look around, so there wasn't even really a good concept of what forward was, so I just binned that off. It's only a rule that applies to pawns anyway. I'm sorry, pawns, goodbye. I should probably mention at this point that, as you can see, the art style is really simple, but I really like it. I knew that if I wanted to keep momentum in the project, I needed to not have to come back to art and keep redoing it and spend hours on individual chess pieces, which was kind of the thinking behind why Paper Pirates had such a simple art style as well. We were making that as part of a competition, so it kind of needed to be made quite quickly originally. It worked for that, I don't see why it can't work for this. My little farmer could move around, but he wasn't doing a lot of farming, so I made it so that whenever he moved onto a soil tile, it replaced it with a wheat tile. If it moves back onto the wheat again, the wheat grows, and you do that a couple of times. Eventually the wheat pops off as a little item that can go into my inventory later. The idea being that you'll need a certain amount of food per piece in your little commune, I guess, of chess pieces every in-game day, otherwise they'll starve, right? If you've got food for half of them, then the other half will starve. And it's really similar to Stacklands in that kind of respect. To make having more pieces a beneficial thing though, pieces needed to work using timers, otherwise there'd be no difference between moving one farmer 20 times and 20 farmers once each if ultimately everything was one unit of time in terms of like how quickly you could click things, right? So if everything has a little timer, then having more pieces means that you can have more of those timers running at once. This also means that when adding more pieces, I can not only play about with the movement that they have, so having knights move in the sort of L shape, but also mean that I can play about with how long they have in between turns. Maybe knights are faster than pawns because they're just moving around, they're not doing any farming. I wanted to show the rest of the team the game at this point, and I was like, okay, I've got a little guy moving around and doing some farming, hooray, but I felt like it didn't really show off what the vision of the game was enough, so I thought, right, I'll add a little enemy. So I added a rat. Rats are little enemies who destroy wheat if they land on it. Later enemies will use more complex pathfinding and try and attack the player, but for now the rat just moves in random directions. It's fine. It's a rat. It's fine. I also added a spider to test out a few movement patterns at once. Rats can move one space per turn in cardinal directions, so northeast, southwest. Spiders though move diagonals, so they're kind of opposites to each other, but they're low level stuff, right? They move one space at a time, they're quite slow, it's easy. Now that I had those two enemies and I was playing about with them, I realised that the game was going to be way too difficult if as soon as an enemy lands on any of your pieces, your piece gets destroyed. It just gets insta-killed like in actual chess. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted your sort of strong pieces to be really strong, your weak pieces to be weaker, enemies that are low level to not just immediately insta-kill all of your nice farmers that you've leveled up over the course of the game. Ultimately, variety and the power level between pieces. So I gave all of the pieces health and attack stats, knights could have more attack, castles could have more health, stuff like that. Unfortunately, this does mean that I've now come to a problem. When you do attack another piece, if it isn't getting destroyed immediately, what happens to it? Two pieces can't be on the same tile. That did happen a lot during testing though, so I guess they can. But I tried to implement a retreat system, where pieces that get attacked would take an immediate move, cancelling what they were doing so that they can retreat away from danger. This didn't feel right for all of the pieces though, so castles, for example, when I made them, I gave them an immovable tag, meaning that when they get attacked, the attacker just goes back to where they came from. And I'll probably reuse that immovable tag for later pieces that are also structures, so I'm thinking things like stonemasons and lumber mills. But I wanted to focus on the core chess pieces first. I was quite excited at this point, and I really wanted to move ahead with the game, so I made a full set of chess pieces. I drew them all up, I gave them all different movement mechanics. The idea would be that all of the pieces had something that made them a little bit unique. Farmers obviously can farm, castles are immovable. I made it so that bishops speed up all pieces on tiles around them so that they can kind of work faster, almost as like divine inspiration. But I'm still playing about with a few ideas for some of the other pieces. But it gave me enough to actually get started just moving things around and seeing how the game felt, and it felt really good. I was enjoying this. This felt a lot more promising than a lot of the other games that I'd been making over the last few years in game jams and that sort of thing. There was sort of one thing that was standing out to me as like a big, oh, is this quite right? In that it didn't feel like it was a turn-based strategy game like chess is, because it isn't a turn-based strategy game. And that's kind of fine. Ultimately, chess already exists. I'm making a game that's inspired by chess, so that's fine. I did feel like there was uncaptured sort of potential there though, so I will talk more in a future devlog about how I've added turn-based dungeons to give the players better loot in return for solving puzzles and fighting bosses. But next time I am going to be talking through the progress I've made so far on the inventory and the crafting system, as well as how you get more chess pieces and the sort of limitations that hold you back from just making a million of them and winning the game immediately, right? I've got loads more to show, but that can all wait for future videos. If you would like to keep updated on this game, please do subscribe to the channel, and we've already created a Steam page for it, so please do go wishlist it. There's a link in the description box below. That's all from me this time. Thank you for listening, and I will catch you next time.